Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, it's not just big cities which suffer from air pollution. New data from the World Health Organization has revealed that more than 30 towns and smaller cities in the UK have levels of air pollution that the WHO says are not safe. It has a limit of 10 micrograms per cubic metre of fine particle emissions, known as PM2.5. In Port Talbot, these emissions were 18 micrograms per cubic metre, making it the most polluted place in the country. Joint second, Scunthorpe and Salford, from where Jane Death has this report.
Salford on a fresh spring day, but the people doing their shopping here are breathing in some of the dirtiest air in the country. Only the steel town of Port Talbot in South Wales has a blacker mark. The WHO says the safe limit for fine particles of pollution is 10 micrograms per cubic metre. Salford is the second dirtiest place,
because it has 15 micrograms of these toxic particles per cubic metre. Manchester's not far behind with 13 micrograms per cubic metre.
This is Buggy Movers, great for fitness but in less than fresh air. The authorities in Greater Manchester admit pollution is linked to around 2,000 premature deaths here each year. It obviously worries these mums.
I knew it was quite bad, like just living in the area, you know, it's industrial, and the motorways and things. I'm a nurse and I know a lot of people in the area struggle with COPD and other health conditions.
Do what we can, definitely, yeah. If it's banning or cutting down on diesel, I don't know what causes it, so yeah. You can't breathe, you can actually taste the fumes off the cars. You know, it's mainly when they're to a standstill. You can't physically run in it.
So you go out before the rush hour?
Before the rush hour.
Greater Manchester is a fast-moving urban sprawl, joined by motorways, ploughed by lorries serving building sites. And this professor of the atmosphere explains that equals PM2.5, or dangerous particles.
We inhale them, they come really deep into our lung, and they can give rise to cardiovascular diseases, to reductions in lung function, and also have been linked to cancers. You can see here on the roadside, a lot of that traffic is heavy goods and light goods vehicles, both of which do produce PM2.5 in large quantities. Many of those service the industry that's developing, the commerce that's developing around the city.
Transport for Greater Manchester says levels of pollution here are not illegal, but it is working on better public transport and looking at the feasibility of charging dirty buses, lorries and commercial vehicles. London already charges the most polluting vehicles, and although the WHO still doesn't call the air here safe, it's better than it was. But Natalie Goodchild, who has cystic fibrosis, still has days when she can't go out.
It affects me hugely on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes I have to replan routes or activities based on pollution levels. And then there's the constant source of mental anxiety as well, that you are constantly surrounded by this thing that you have no control over. And you know it's affecting your health, but there's not a lot that you can really do about it.
The government says our air has significantly improved since 2010, but it is right, pollution is harming the health of the nation's men, women and children.
Jane Death reporting, and we can go live now to the most polluted town in Britain, Port Talbot, and our Home Affairs correspondent. And I guess citizens there probably didn't need telling, but anyway, how's the news gone down there, Andy?
Not brilliantly, as you might expect, John. The Council have even suggested that the WHO might have got their figures wrong, that there are other measurements, on-the-ground measurements, which paint a much healthier picture of Port Talbot. But having said that, they do concede there is a big issue here, and it's all too obvious why. This is a steel town, long shaped by its steelworks, and if you look over there, those stacks, that's not the only part of the steelworks which are producing these polluting particles. There are torpedoes carrying molten iron around. There are conveyor belts. There are ships offloading at the docks which are producing this pollution. And this is a site which spans 4 miles of the coastline. So think of it not just as a steelworks, but as a vast industrial city. And if that wasn't a big enough challenge for air quality in Port Talbot, then add into the mix this, the M4 motorway snaking alongside the other side of the town, always busy, pumping out vehicle emissions in line with the rooftops. That's why, to a large extent, there's a particular issue here.
Well, if the authorities there don't believe it, I mean, are they doing anything about it?
Lots of initiatives, actually. On site, I'm told the owners of the steelworks have been investing in reducing emissions, and they said today that they've been in line with EU guidelines, less stricter guidelines, for the last 10 years. There's a Welsh Government action plan in place, and among their measures, a traffic slowing measure, because there's a stretch along the M4 here which is at a 50-mile-an-hour limit. That's going to be extended, and it will be very interesting to see just how commonplace such an initiative might become in the future.
Andy Davis, down in Port Talbot.